Hey, how's it going, everyone? Today I'm going to be installing the Rapid Bike EVO for the Tenere 700. So this is my second installation of a Rapid Bike. My first one was on a Ducati Scrambler. We got the module here and the wiring harness. Alright, so don't let this intimidate you now. It's quite a decent harness. It basically is going to plug into every control point on your bike. Now this little guy right here is a PosiTap. I'm definitely not going to be using the PosiTap, and I'll explain why later. Alright, well, the first step is basically taking off the tank. So I have the seat off now. We're going to be removing some of these fasteners all around here for the side panels. I've removed most of those already. I just need to take the tank off with these bolts here. Yamaha has a bunch of different fasteners here. These fasteners, if you take a blunt object and push from behind, you can remove these. It presses out the centerpiece so you don't crack them trying to pry them loose. They're kind of a pain. And another two holding down the tank. Up next we have the 4 tank bolts holding down this aluminum bracket. I saw on another video that you should take a piece of wood and put it under here under the frame so you can lift the tank back. It does help if you have an empty tank. I have a half a tank worth of gas right now, so it's a little harder to use. I've already disconnected the fuel pump line. Now I just need to disconnect the fuel line itself. If you pop that clip to the side, you can squeeze it off eventually. Some fuel might drip out. It's kind of nice. The Tenere fuel tank can sit flat on the ground without pinching or binding up on any of the hoses underneath, which is kind of nice. Make sure you get all the fuel out of the line so it doesn't leak all over while you're working. You definitely want to print out these instructions to follow along with. The pictures are well marked and show exactly which plugs that you're going to be unplugging and plugging back in. Up first we have injector 1, which is on the left. We'll unplug it, plug it into our EVO harness, and then plug the other side back into the injector. Same goes for the right side, which is injector number 2. Each plug on the EVO harness is labeled, so it's pretty easy to follow along and know which plug goes where. Okay, and locate the voltage regulator, which is on the left side of the bike. It's 2 8mm screws. One of the trickiest parts about this job is finding out where you want to run the wiring. So in this case here, I'm going to run behind the frame over top of the engine and then back under another piece of the frame there, so I can pull that out and plug the crankshaft sensor module back in. I actually like to wrap all of these connections up with electrical tape for just a little peace of mind with moisture and keeping dust out of all these connections. Up next we have 2 connectors, and that's on the right side of the engine just behind the head. You want to locate the TPS sensor connection and then pull back the insulation. We're going to make a connection in the white wire within this harness. Now the directions call for using a PosiTap to splice into this white wire on the TPS connector. I don't like PosiTap connectors, so I'm going to cut back the insulation and splice into the wire the old-fashioned way. Added a little heat shrink to keep moisture out, and then wrapped up everything with electrical tape. Plug both connectors back in, the TPS, and then this one here on the right side, slide that shroud up over top. Okay, so this is the feeding voltage section. This is where the module gets the power. It's from these two plugs right on the side. And you want to find a good way to run your wiring harness. So here's the first problem that I ran into during this install. I plugged in these two cords, and then the next step is to plug into the O2 sensors at the front of the engine. And the harness just wasn't long enough. I can't reach. I have no idea what's going on here. There, an extension cable. Apparently there was an extension cable in the box, and I must have misplaced it and put it back in the box thinking it was a cable for the laptop connection. I probably missed it because there was no mention of it in the instructions, so maybe yours will be different. Who knows? So now we got that extension cable all wrapped up with some electrical tape to keep some moisture out, and then I'm going to run this along the frame rail and come back later with some zip ties and zip tie everything back up. And as you can see, we have enough room now to run down and plug in these two connections. Now, for whatever reason, the picture on the instructions has a plastic box underneath the seat that they are attaching the module to. My bike doesn't have that. I bought it used, so I had to get a little creative. So I ran to the hardware store and got a couple metal brackets and some rivets, and made this flat support piece that bolts underneath the airbox, and should be a good spot to mount. I'm still going to use the Velcro, and I also drilled a hole in the side and tapped a screw so I can use at least that one tab there to hold it a little more secure. I waited until now to do the negative terminal. I just wanted to run all my wiring and get where I want to route everything. The wiring harness has a couple of different plugs here. You can hook up a quick shifter, the USB, we've got a handlebar switch map, all kinds of stuff. I'm just going to wrap all of this up with electrical tape for now and tuck everything nice and tidy down into that hole there and secure everything down with the zip tie. And that pretty much wraps it up. I think the hardest part about this was not having that extension cable at first and then trying to fab up this mounting bracket. Like I said, the wiring and the routing that you're going to choose is the hardest part about this thing. Feel free to leave a comment below and tell me if you routed something a little different or what your variation was. And here's a little peek under the seat, just checking to see if it's going to rub at all, and everything looks good. Alright, that's pretty much it. Slap that tank on and put everything back together again. You're good to go. Hope you liked this video.